Welcome back to Broncos Country Tonight. Broncos TV's Matt Boyer in studio with me as we take a look at the Pro Football Focus numbers for the season through 6 games with the Broncos. Now, one of the things that jumps out almost immediately is Garrett Bowles. Now, I think that Garrett Bowles has had a terrific start to the season. I know that the offense in general, I think people are pretty down about their overall performance, but there are standout guys, and I just want to take a minute here to acknowledge a little bit of his performance and how it is helping the offensive line.
Well, I think, we mentioned Bowles being able to kind of pull and be that athletic left tackle for the Broncos in the run game, but also the passing game, like you mentioned, I think he's done extremely well. We talked a lot about evaluating Drew Lock and, kind of being quick to judgment. I think a lot of people were quick to judging Garrett Bowles. This was a guy who didn't have a lot of high-level collegiate experience coming into the NFL rather. And I think that with the right coach, Mike Munchak, we've seen what he's capable of this year, and I've been extremely impressed with what he's been able to do. Interestingly
enough, the guy on the opposite side of the offensive line, Demar Dodson, is the 3rd highest graded guy. What have you liked about Demar Dodson? I've said for a while, like maybe athletically you want a little bit more upside there, but for what he gives you as far as his steadiness goes, I mean, you couldn't really ask for a better backup, or in this case, 3rd string right tackle.
To get a guy like Demar Dodson as your 3rd string right tackle, I mean, that's pretty good consistency. He provides a lot of experience. Remember, you've got a guy along the offensive line in Lloyd Cushionberry who has struggled at times. You want as many veteran presence guys as you can have along an offensive front like that when you've got some younger pieces. So I've been thoroughly impressed with Demar Dodson. Meanwhile,
Lloyd Cushionberry, I'm glad you brought him, he does not have a great grade as it relates to Pro Football Focus. I'd say it's been kind of an up and down season overall for him. I'm not trying to positively spin anything. He really struggled early on, kind of found his footing against the Jets. I thought he had played a pretty good game against the Patriots, and then it was kind of another step back a little bit against the Chiefs.
Yeah, he's been up and down, but like a lot of these rookies you think about, KJ Hamler, Michael Ojemudia, heck, even Jerry Jeudy, the 1st-round pick, has been kind of up and down. So I think with the bigger the spotlight, I think, sometimes the mistakes that rookies make can be magnified, and I think we're just seeing that with Lloyd. I think, just based on his pedigree, though, this is a guy that we know can play at a high level based off of what we saw him do at LSU. So in the long term, I'm not really worried about Lloyd, but, as with every rookie, he's going to go through his struggles.
Going to the defensive side for a minute here, Shelby Harris grades out as the top-rated guy, and he's had a really good season. A couple of moments in that Chiefs game I think he'd like to have back, but overall still playing really well. But what I love about this is in the top 3, Bryce Callahan and Bradley Chubb, 2 guys coming off injury, both pretty massive question marks coming into the year and wondering what exactly we're going to get as far as production-wise. Both guys have looked tremendous.
No, Callahan on Sunday, I was thoroughly impressed. I mentioned to Steve Atwater while we were watching the game that, every time Tyreek Hill went out, Callahan followed him, and he did a really good job. The touchdown that Tyreek Hill had was when Callahan got switched off of him. It was Justin Simmons against Tyreek Hill, and as soon as Mahomes saw it, he got the ball, threw it right to him, and it was a touchdown. So an unfortunate matchup there. But I do think that Callahan's played at a high level. The pass rush has been great, as we just mentioned with Chubb. Vic Fangio has proved that, he can do a lot with limited resources, and that's what we're seeing. Chubb, we knew he was a Pro Bowl caliber rusher, and the fact that he's getting help on the opposite side from guys like Malik Reed, Anthony Chickillo, I think just speaks to what this defense can be.
Yeah, and I want to continue here with just a little bit of the secondary conversation because, like I said, I mentioned Bryce Callahan. You knew Justin Simmons would get a pretty high grade. He's a very good player. But a guy like Duke Dawson kind of, up here pretty high, and they've been using him a little bit in those dime packages. And honestly, when you're a team that is trying to find your way through covering tight ends and running backs out of the backfield, that was a big question about what they were going to be able to do, how they were going to be able to handle that, because it's not exactly Josie Jewell's strength. But I felt like Duke Dawson, where there were times in training camp, I wondered if he'd make this roster, has filled in nicely.
I think the biggest vote of confidence for Duke Dawson might have been last week when the Broncos decided to release Devontae Bosby. We all thought coming into the season that Bosby was a pretty sure thing, and that guys like Harris and Dawson weren't going to really challenge him for that a place in that DB's room. And I think that Dawson, as you mentioned, extremely valuable because of the way he tackles. Remember, Vic Fangio loves nothing more than DBs who are fundamental tacklers. And you know what? That is Duke Dawson to a T.
Yeah, and I want to go back to Malik Reed here for a second. He is third on the team in total pressures. You have Bradley Chubb number 1, Shelby Harris number 2, and Malik Reed. Actually, I take this fourth with Alexander right there. So, I mean, really, as far as his development goes, gets a couple more sacks against the Chiefs. There was some weird blocking, by the way, happening in the Chiefs game. They let Bradley Chubb run free at Patrick Mahomes a couple of times.
Why would you go to Josie Jewell when you got Chubb on the outside? Yeah, that was bizarre.
It was weird. And then Malik Reed also had at least one free run in there. But what do you think about his progression so far? I mean, I feel like you're seeing a guy that sets up very nicely as far as a rotational pass rusher for you. You're not getting the pressure you'd like from Vaughn there. But, I mean, again, if the Broncos had to fall back into a guy that is giving you those kinds of pressures, third, fourth on the team in pressures, and I think 4 sacks now on the season, I think you'd take it.
If you would have told me at the beginning of the year that the Broncos are going to lose Von Miller, Jeremiah Atachu, and Jarrell Casey and still be top 10 in sacks by week 6, I'd think you were crazy. But here we are because Malik Reed has done such an exceptional job on the opposite side of Bradley Chubb. Malik's a guy who, after every practice, is working on his get-off. He's working on his hand placement. He's constantly retooling his game with Bradley Chubb before and after practice. So I think a lot of that extra work we're starting to see pay off on the field. And I've been very, very impressed. I've been happy to see that Broncos Country can see what we see and that the production is kind of going along with the amount of time he's putting in on the practice field.
I think that's really well said. All right, thank you to Matt Boyer for joining me on this edition of Broncos Country Tonight. Thank you for watching. Catch you next time.